Mr. Rothschild, thank you so much for coming here today. I want to applaud you for taking your mental health seriously and starting therapy.
Thanks, Doc. You know, I wasn't gonna come in, but then I had an argument with my girlfriend. It got posted on Reddit, and these three assholes on a podcast told me I was in the wrong. So here I am.
You know, shockingly, we get that a lot. Anyway, I'd like to start with a real classic. I'm going to show you some ink blots, and I want you to tell me what you see. Let's begin with this one.
Are you serious?
Is there a problem?
I know the answer, I just, don't really think I should say it.
Don't be ridiculous. This is a safe space. Though, for the purposes of my own practice, I'm going to need you to say your answer directly into this microphone. Good afternoon, Jank enthusiasts. I'm MBT, and this is 10-minute testing. So we know it's good, Razio, Malice, and Primite, but is that really all that's playable during this metagame? Let's take a look at one of the more promising rogue decks poking around the periphery, presenting Crystron. So we're able to get So here's the list. This is Dashvi's winning list from Danny's Cup of Aces tournament a couple of weekends back. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Wow, new ad PogChamp. As you all know by now, Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is the best place online to get detailed tournament results, in-depth strategy articles, and host decks. It's where I upload all the decks I play on 10-minute testing, it's the pack simulator responsible for progression, it's the arena drafter responsible for arena. But today I'm here to shill something else. They recently interviewed me as part of a new series of content creator and their favorite deck articles. There's a link to it in the description, I hope you'll check it out, and the site proper as well. Now back to the video. So with that, let's take a crack at Crystron. Crystron's an archetype that debuted in Inov to pretty much zero fanfare from anyone not named Hardleg. Over the past 9 years, it's mostly been used to win games in Duel Links, trick me specifically into saying something I probably shouldn't, and to get a whack-ass Orchest combo going with Roseniks. Theoretically, these monsters were meant to synchro summon on their opponent's turn, triggering something like Carry On Gandrax at a time where it would matter, but the best tool for doing so, Crystron Halqifibrax, was so good at moonlighting as an FTK enabler he got himself banned. It looked like this archetype was going to be destined for the dustbin and a couple of choice Twitch clips. Until now! For some strange reason, Suda has a ton of new Crystron support, one of which appears to literally just be Halqifibrax after his parole was up. These new monsters do so much for the deck, from setting up Sylfefnir to summoning multiple monsters from the deck to punishing opponents for playing the game at all. What's more, one of their monsters, Smyger, is 3 stars and extends from the grave, meaning you can shove the rank 7 shell from coping Tearlament builds into the deck to make Dracosac and Cherubini in hands that feature Diabellstar or Kashtira. The end result is a combo deck that's extremely efficient, consistent, and shockingly, gets to play good cards. So with that, let's get into the card by card. First up, the new boys. We've got 3 copies of Sulfidor. If this card's in your hand or graveyard, you can target a Crystron card you control, destroy it, and if you do special summon this card, also you are locked from the extra except for machines. If normal or specialed, remember it's a 5, you can send up to 2 Crystron cards with different names from your deck to the graveyard. Notably, a ton of these guys love being destroyed, most notably Sylfefnir, though it obviously has a built-in way to do that. We're then playing 3 copies of Crystron Tristaros. When your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can special summon a Crystron monster from your deck except Tristaros, then immediately after this effect resolves, synchro summon a machine synchro monster using monsters you control, including that monster. You can banish this card from your graveyard to destroy a synchro monster you control, and if you do special summon 2 Crystron monsters from your deck, also you can special from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except for machines. Now, both of those are hard onces, but it's really important to point out that not only is this card a really powerful extender for the archetype, it's also a pretty sufficient end board piece. If you are completely stopped in your tracks by the right series of hand traps, just having this guy on your field is a huge benefit to your ability to play on your opponent's turn. We're playing 2 copies of Crystron Smyger. You can target a face-up card you control. You can't special for the rest of the turn except for machine-type synchros from the extra. Destroy that card and special a Crystron Tuner from your deck. It can be banished from the graveyard to add a Crystron Spell Trap from your deck to your hand. Now, previously, there weren't very many good Crystron Spell Traps, but now they have Crystron Inclusion, which when activated allows you to add a Crystron from your deck to your hand except itself. The first time each Crystron monster you control will be destroyed by battle, each turn it's not, and it can be banished from the graveyard to target a Crystron monster in your graveyard, special summon it, and each of those is once per turn with a single activation. We've got 1 copy of Sylfefnir, 1 copy of Thistvern, 1 copy of Citri. For Kashtiras, we are on 3 Fenrir, 2 Unicorn, pretty standard ratio, and we've got 3 Diabell Star as well. We're playing 3 Wanted to find that Diabell Star, 2 copies of Deception, and 1 copy of Hollowed Azamina. In the extra, we've got Mercy Alago and Illa Sylvia, just borrowing from Snake Eye builds at this point. These 2 are 6s, which means that they cannot be part of the Mecha Phantom Beast Dracosac line. Access to Diabell Star, of course, means that theoretically you can get there regardless, but it's just really good to be able to have a repeatable negate in your extra deck before you commit to these really intense combos. We're playing, of course, 1 Hallowed Azamina, 3 Pressured at Planet Wraithsoth, and 1 Kashtira Birth. Finally, we're playing 1 copy of Crystron Clustered. This card is deceptively powerful. Crystrons can't be banished by your opponent's card effects, which is super important. You can target a face-up card on the field, or 2 if you control a Crystron Synchro. Shuffle a Crystron from your graveyard or banishment into the deck, and then destroy the targeted cards. Now, of course, these can destroy your opponent's cards, but they can also destroy your own in scenarios where that would cause you to plus or be able to continue a combo on an opponent's setup turn. We've got 2 copies of Nibiru, 3 copies of Fuelos, 3 copies of Ash Blossom, 3 copies of Triple Tactic Sounds, 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet, and 3 Infinite Impermanents. In the extra, we've got 1 Clockwork Knight for some very choice setups. Recall that all of these monsters, for some unbelievable reason, are machines. We've got 1 copy of Cherubini, 1 copy of SP Little Knight. We've got Nova and Infinity. This deck farts out 5 stars like nobody's business, and converting some of those 5 stars into an Omni Negate is really important. Dracosac for the Cherubini line, Typhon, Dawn Dragster, which you can summon on your opponent's turn particularly easily. The Crystron that you will be using as part of your combo setup, this is Crystron Eleskeletus. Oh god, I hope I'm saying that right. All monsters your opponent controls lose 500 attack and defense, and if this card is synchro summoned, you can add a Crystron from your graveyard or banishment to your hand. If destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon a Crystron monster from your graveyard or your banishment. We're playing an Arctius, a Carrion Gandrax, a Legacia, and then, of course, the Sylvia and Mercy Alago. In the extra, we've got Lancias, we've got Meows, we've got Drolls, we've got an Ultimate Slayer and Triple Tactics Thrust, a Dimensional Barrier, and a copy of Artifact Sanctum. So with that, let's jump into some games. Our first match is up against Malice, and yeah, going big immediately, huh? We've got a pretty stellar opener. We've got, of course, Unicorn and Fenrir, which means we will be able to do that stupid Dracosac line. We're going to grab Birth and normal summon the Fenrir, activate the effect of the Fenrir in order to grab a copy of Fenrir, then overlay for a copy of Dracosac. We'll activate the Dracosac effect, summon 2 3s to our side of the field, and those are going to be linked off immediately for a copy of Cherubini. We'll activate the effect of the Cherubini, sending a copy of Smyger to the graveyard, then activate the effect of our Smyger after linking off for a SP Little Knight for an Inclusion. Inclusion here is going to grab a Sulfador, which can then trigger, popping the Inclusion, and guess what? That's going to trigger both the Sulfador and enable the Inclusion to trigger its effect as well. We're going to bring back this copy of Tristaros as we go into Eleskeletus and activate its effect to cycle back this Crystron cluster we sent. We'll then use the effect of the Tristaros to pop the Eleskeletus for a Sulfefnir and a Sulfador, then summon back the Tristaros off the Esqueletus effect, go to a CDI, birth back this copy of Fenrir, and set a couple of cards before passing turn. This is a pretty stellar end board. Let's see what our opponent attempts to do. They're going to go CL1 Allure of Darkness, CLT Book of Eclipse. We're going to go ahead and Cyber Dragon Infinity there. They're going to go for the Chessie Cat afterwards. We will chain the effect of the Tristaros, summoning from deck a copy of Sulfador, and then synchro summoning for a Dawn Dragster. They'll go Chessie effect. We will imperm that. Afterwards, they are going to go ahead and fire off the effect of their White Rabbit, which we will also imperm. I am holding this FA Dawn Dragster for something exactly like the Gold Sarcophagus, and as they go into the Lizardos, we will banish it with the SP Little Knight. Just good to get material off of the board of Malice. It turns out, though, I do not need to negate the effect of the Gold Sarcophagus because they activated it in an imperm column. Gotcha. We'll activate the effect of the Kashtira Birth here, banishing everything from the graveyard, and they'll scoop. So that's how the deck performs on the play, but what does it do on the draw? Our opponent for Game 2 is playing Bestial Fiendsmith Tenpai, and god, I hate that this deck is even remotely playable. Our hand looks pretty bad, admittedly. We've only got the Infinite Impermanence in terms of non-engine, but that might be enough. They're going to go for a copy of Engraver for a Tract after firing off this Bestial Lubellion. They'll activate the effect of the Lurry in the graveyard, summoning it to their side of the field to make a Requiem effect that's going to grab a Lacrima from deck. Lacrima's going to send from deck to graveyard another copy of Engraver, at which point they'll go Requiem, target the Lacrima, and then go for a Necroquip into an Engraver in order to bring it back and go for a copy of Caesar. From here, they're going to go for the Magnamut, targeting the Engraver, so they can trigger the effect of the Magnamut on field. Then finally, they're going to go for the Bestial Lubellion in order to set a copy of Branded Regain, normal summon a Fadra, go into Heavenly Spheres, and pass. This is an FTK, and they have 3 pieces of interaction from the hand, but we'll see what we can do. We'll go Infib here, targeting the Hieratic Seals. They're going to chain the Seals in order to bounce their own copy of Regained, bring back the Requiem, at which point we will, in response to the summon of this Druis Worm, go Wanted. Afterwards, we are going to proceed to the main phase and fire off Wraithsoth. They will Requiem in response to summon the Lacrima back that they shuffled from their graveyard back into the deck, using its effect to do nothing. We've got a droplet for your ass. Let's negate the Lacrima and the DDD Wave High King Caesar. We'll go Fenrir here. They'll go Baldrake. We'll go Fenrir, and they'll go Effect Valor. We ate a couple of cards with that singular one, but still that does contest the Fenrir. We're going to have to go Inclusion for a Thistfern, then send it to the graveyard for a Diabellstar, which will also get Valored. That's frustrating, but hardly the end of the world. We can use Thistfern here in order to grab a Tristaros, then go to the battle phase and crash with the Baldrake so we can actually get off to the races. In main phase 2, we're going to normal summon this copy of Tristaros, activate the effect of the Sulfador and graveyard popping the Inclusion. We will send a copy of Sulfefnir, then Smyger to get the Cluster. Our opponent will concede, and we will take the W. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's on what else but Fiendsmith Ryziel. Admittedly, our hand looks alright. We're going to begin with a copy of Unicorn that's going to grab from deck to hand a copy of Birth. We'll activate the Birth, at which point we can fire off this Wraithsoth in order to grab a Fenrir. We're going to normal summon this copy of Smyger, then go to a Clockwork Knight, putting it into the graveyard so we can activate the graveyard effect of Smyger. They will Ash it, which is annoying. We will Unicorn, taking a copy of Detonator, as we go for an SP Little Knight and bring back this copy of Unicorn, passing turn. Our opponent's going to draw for turn, and they draw a Druis Worm. They're going to begin with a copy of Ice Ryziel. They're going to use it to summon a copy of Ext, trigger the effect of the Ext, at which point we can Unicorn in order to take another copy of Ryziel Detonator. That's everything they have, so we'll see where they go from here. They're going to go Moon into Requiem. Requiem effect to get a copy of Lacrima. Lacrima effect, at which point we can go for the SP Little Knight in order to get this bad girl off the field. Engraver hits the grave. They're going to summon it, and then afterwards they will Triple Tactics Talents to check out our grip. It's not good. Afterwards we will go for the Birth to banish pretty much everything of note. They will Druis Worm Chain, targeting the Requiem so that they can get it onto their side of the field and make a Moon of the Closed Heavens, sending our Kashtira Unicorn. They're going to go to the battle phase, deal 12, but I'm feeling pretty good from this position. We will draw for turn, and yeah, I think this copy of Birth might carry. We'll go Wraithsoth to grab a Fenrir. We'll activate the effect of the Birth in order to bring back a Unicorn. We'll normal summon the Fenrir, activate the Fenrir effect in order to grab a copy of Unicorn. Then we'll go to the battle phase, eat everything we can. Fenrir here banishing the Lacrima face down as we get over the Moon of the Closed Heaven and get in for 28 and 19. Now, this isn't lethal, but we can put them in a position where they can't possibly win by overlaying for a Dracosack, and then just doing the combo in main phase 2. We'll go tokens on our side of the board into a copy of Cherubini. Cherubini send the second copy of Smyger, then activate the effect of the Smyger in graveyard. Thankfully, this does resolve. We'll get a copy of Inclusion. Inclusion activates here to grab a copy of Cluster, then we can Sulfador, targeting the Inclusion, which will summon the Sulfador, activate its on-field effect, and our opponent will scoop. So it's time for game 2, and okay, this hand looks pretty good too. We've got an Infinite Impermanence, we've got a Fenrir, we've got a Thrust. Let's see how far our opponent gets. Now you can see what their board plan looks like. They've got a copy of Solemn Strike a la Santoli, which means that we may have to contend with more than we are hoping to chew off. They're going to go for the Ice into Fiendsmith line, going Requiem into a copy of Lacrima, activate the effect of the Lacrima to send a copy of Engraver to the graveyard. Requiem to target the Lacrima so that you can use the Engraver to summon back to your side of the field and make a Necroquip, overlaying for a High King Caesar. From here they're going to go Sword effect in order to grab an Ice, and then special summon that X, sending a Mirror Logic. Duo Drive trigger here. They are going to attach, then activate the effect. That's a perfect Infinite Impermanence. Thankfully, we didn't turn on the Triple Tactics Talents here. They'll set one and pass turn. We will draw, and we can probably make this work. We'll begin with a copy of Fenrir, which gets Solemn Struck. That's a little frightening. They're going to go Lacrima here. Even though we do have a really fantastic series of cards here, we're going to have to figure out a way to out the High King Caesar. We can go Deception here. Deception effect pitching the Citri for a Hallowed as a Mina. We'll go Thrust here in order to grab a copy of Talents, and then Talents in order to take. We'll grab the DDD Wave High King Caesar, then we'll Hallowed as a Mina in order to show them the Illa Sylvia. Let's go ahead and get that copy of Caesar off the field for a Diabellstar, which is going to get us a Wanted. We will go to main phase 2 and make an SP Little Knight in order to banish this copy of Duo Drive. Our opponent could, of course, chain the effect of Fiendsmith in Paradise and activate its effect in order to send. We have nothing to banish with, but we can use the Hallowed as a Mina in order to cycle itself back and make a copy of Illa Sylvia on this blank board. Finally, we can activate the effect of the Wanted here, shuffling back the Deception, and oh my god, that's like the best draw on the deck. Okay, we might still be in this. Our opponent's going to begin with the effect of the Fiendsmith Engraver, and the scariest part of this Fiendsmith Ryziel deck isn't what its turn 1 board looks like, it's its ability to follow up. They'll go Talents after we activate the effect of the Illa Sylvia. We'll go Dawn Dragster, but unfortunately the way that this resolves, we really can't do anything about that. They're going to take the Dawn Dragster, they'll go Lurie into Requiem effect to grab a copy of Engraver from deck, and we should just be toast here. Sequence in order to shuffle 3 back and make a copy of Desiree. Hopefully they're not on Agnum Day, and oh god, they are. Okay, Ice Ryziel here can just summon from deck, so let's scoop them up. I feel like that second game was really ours to lose, and lose it we did. Well, it's time for that all-important game 3, and oh god, okay, cat's out of the bag. The card that everyone has in their side deck to be Malice beats us too. We're going first. Our hand looks okay. We're going to begin with a copy of Wanted. I'm already salivating here. We can get the Fenrir to our side of the field. We can summon this copy of Diabellstar, and then we can set a copy of Deception, go into Dracosack, and okay, without the ability to banish the Smyger, we can't do dick fuck anything. So let's just end on Illa Sylvia. We'll go Deception for a copy of Hallowed, activate the effect of the Hallowed, sending the Deception in order to summon an Illa Sylvia. Fenrir here is going to go ahead and grab us a Unicorn. We'll set this copy of Droplet and then reset the Deception. Hopefully this works. Our opponent will draw for turn. It's Droll. Thankfully, they don't really have a Ryziel yet. They'll go Lacrima into a copy of Engraver into Requiem effect in order to summon a copy of Engraver from deck. They'll go Requiem, target the Engraver. At res, we'll go for the Fenrir, banish the Requiem, at which point they will go Engraver, summon into their side of the field, and then go for the Triple Tactics Talents to draw. We will attempt to Illa Sylvia this. They will called by, so they are going to get to find stuff, and they do find a Ryziel, but it's the wrong one as they've already used their normal. In damage, we're going to go for the Forbidden Droplet on this wave, High King Caesar, all planned, of course, so that we are in the driver's seat, and Wanted off the top is pretty good. We'll grab back the Diabellstar, then we'll activate Deception effect, Smyger effect. We'll go ahead and grab an Inclusion, eat a Drollin Lockbird. Okay, it's time for Diabellstar. We will go ahead and grab another Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils and just make Typhon. Hopefully this is going to be enough, but I don't know. I kind of doubt it. We'll pass back to our opponent. Maybe one of these turns we'll be able to combo, and the Deception ensures that at some point that'll be true. They draw another really rough normal. They're going to go for the effect of the Engraver in Graveyard. We'll go for the Fenrir, banishing the Engraver, hoping they don't have anything, and down comes Ice Ryziel. Unfortunately, now they are off to the races. Ice and X effect in order to grab Sword. They're going to go into a Moon, into a Requiem effect in order to summon from deck a Lacrima effect in order to send from deck to the graveyard an Engraver, special Sword effect in order to grab a copy of X effect, which does trigger because all they have is 4s. They're going to go ahead and get rid of the Sky Crisis into Duo Drive, into Attach, into Search. They're going to grab a Node and a copy of Ice for follow-up. The Node here is going to bring back the Ice, and they'll summon the Ice. Forget follow-up. I guess we're dead here. Detonator is going to attach Mirror Logic. They'll go to battle phase and walk over both the Typhon and the Fenrir, putting me at a pretty low life total relative to where I need to be, with a Nibiru still stacked in hand, staring down double debt. We'll go for Seeker of Sinful Spoils here at end step and draw for turn. At least we're not going to be interrupted here. We're going to go for Deception. We'll go Unicorn effect. They will Detonator, targeting the Unicorn, which is annoying. We will grab this copy of Birth. They will Lacrima here in order to set up the Fiendsmith and Paradise line. Requiem here summons the Lacrima they just shuffled. They will send the trap card here. And then we'll go for a copy of Fenrir. They will Fiendsmith and Paradise to send the Fenrir, and we maybe can make this work. Inclusion's pretty good. Unfortunately, it's also a continuous spell, which means it stacks up really poorly against this Detonator. We'll go for Birth again, getting Detonated. Really, so much of this deck is necessary to keep on the field if you want it to actually do anything. Finally, we'll send our last card for this copy of Diabellstar and try and draw out of it with a Wanted. A triple attack is pretty good. They're going to Detonator pop the Diabellstar. We can theoretically take a Detonator, but it doesn't do anything, and the Mirror Logic triggers anyway. We'll go to the battle phase to walk over the Duo Drive, but we are dead on board. We can use Inclusion to cycle back this copy of Tristaros into SP Little Knight, which banishes the Detonator. There's really no way to do this. Our opponent draws for turn, but just the stuff Engrave is enough. Fiendsmith Engraver into a copy of Chaos Angel should seal the deal. All they have to do here is go to the battle phase and hit in for 35. They're going to pass it back to us. Any one card that does it? No, that's not one of them. Okay. So we're back with the deck, and, well, we did lose the best of 3, but it was against the best deck in the format, so that's got to count for something. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1. The new Crystron cards provide the deck with a whole new angle for the strategy. Sulfador allows access to a very easy rank 5 or Synchro 7, meaning the deck can easily make Sidra or Dawn Dragster, and Crystron Cluster allows for a grind game and interruption at the same time in one trap, while the rest of the new tools help facilitate it, but of course especially Tristalos. 2, let's talk specifically about Tristalos. He's not only a fantastic combo facilitator. If you are stopped at a point where you get to Tristalos, he's also a great endboard piece. He allows you to synchro into any machine synchro in response to an activated effect, meaning you can quick sync into Dragster for spell negates or carry on Gandrax to banish 3 of opponent's monsters from the field and the graveyard. And 3, there's a ton of non-engine space. You can see we're playing 50 cards, but of course we've expanded that from 40 thanks to the hypergeometric calculator. The Crystron engine isn't too large, it isn't too repeatable, and while this version of the deck utilizes the generic 7 engines of Kashtira and Azamina to get a free negate alongside Dracosack as another way to bridge into the deck's combos, you could theoretically play a ton of other stuff in those slots. And the cons. Well, 1, the biggest con for the deck is that right now it loses to the Malice Silver Bullets. Everybody's playing Lancia out of the board, and everyone's making Dweller blind. Both of those shut out the majority of your Crystron's effects, meaning you're going to have to rely on the Kashtiras to do literally anything. 2 is that the main Crystron engine also struggles to play into Detonator without non-engine, because removing it from the field before they can resolve their effects puts you at a big disadvantage, and you'll often be scrambling to resolve names unsuccessfully if you don't get to see your other engines or an imperm. And 3, it's hard. Me like summon 4, not think. Overall, the deck failed to make a splash at YCS Orlando, but do expect it to stick around as a potent rogue option in the current metagame. So that's that. Thanks so much for watching. These videos are completely funded by, and occasionally suggested by, my patrons, some of whom have paid top dollar to be announced at the end of the 10-minute testings. Here are those people now for whom I am permanently indebted. About 99 Donuts, Elena Tincher, Alex Perea, Allison Elliott, Ally, APK, Pearly Tier 0, Brett Henry, Cool Name, Damon O'Neill, Dark Rebel XYZ, Derpin Dragon, DJ Elefante, NB Adams, FPS Lord Derp, Garrett Ran, Hergalicious, Night Mary, Legal Rights, Lockstone, Luis Hernandez, Lullaby of Souls, Master of Faster, Matthew M. DeRezzo, MBT Play Madolce, Mike Carlotti, N54 Lionheart, Nacho Gonzalez, Nebula Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pombo, Project Mercury, Rohan Doge, Rose Lapine, Serpentax, Shelby Piet, Sly Ninja 43, Soul CLG, Troy Says By Erasure Is Gay, Who's Nick, Wonder Waffle, and Yukika Zami. Couldn't have done it without you.